You feel this nervousness on the phone there?
Sir, I've been trying to make an urgent phone call up there.
Well, I don't think it's something I want to do on an overseas phone.
You gotta make some phone calls. Hang up the phone. Prank caller. Prank caller.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to Packernet After Dark. This is the call-in show of the Packernet Podcast Network. If you'd like to call in, if you'd like to participate in the show, please feel free to do so. Phone number here is 608-501-0718. New callers go directly to the front of the line. We have a lot of calls here, folks, so none of them are new callers. So we're going to continue doing this thing we've been doing, which is going from the front of the line backwards. I just think as the calls start to build up, we're always so far behind, sometimes over a week, and nothing makes sense anymore. So this will be the way we go forward. If you have a call that is several days ago I didn't get to, it's still relevant, feel free to call it back. Whatever you want to do. It doesn't matter to me. But let's go ahead and get started. Make sure we got this all set up correctly, and we do, with Craig from Indiana.
Hey, Ryan, it's Craig from Indiana.
Hey.
Was just kind of reflecting on the disappointment of this season, and I know it's not over, but was just putting together some thoughts around, the top 5 reasons why this has been such a disappointing season. And my list, it'd be interesting to hear yours, and maybe you just want to wait till the season's over, but I'd be surprised if this would change. Number one is injuries, and obviously the impact it has on, the team, and it impacts the other 4 reasons I'm going to list. But also just the disappointing of the joy it takes away from watching the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
Tucker Kraft was so fun to watch. Micah was so fun to watch. And, what could our offensive line have been, without some of the injuries in the defensive line. And so I think that's a big reason, obviously, for the disappointment this year. Second is our perpetual special teams. 3 or 4 games the special teams cost us. Just devastating. We could be a number 1 seed if special teams were just adequate. And I didn't have huge expectations of them, but I thought they'd be better. I mean, our punter was fantastic. Overall, the kicker was pretty accurate, but just the rest of the special teams is terrible. The work in the trenches has been really bad on both the offensive and defensive side, so that was obviously on my list. And some of that, again, is related to the injuries with Wyatt and Elton stuff happening, but just ugly, whether it's run defense or offensive rushing, pass protection, terrible. In the 4th, I had red zone efficiency. Again, if we score a few, just half of those are touchdowns instead of field goals, we win several more games. And then the last thing I had was turnovers and dropped interceptions. Again, probably 3-4 games. If we make those catches, those interceptions, we probably win those games. But I don't know what your list would look like, but those are ones just rose for me, just reflecting on the season. Again, it's not over, but I don't think we're going to make much of a run. I think we're just too decimated, and I am concerned about the morale of the team, if you will, the belief that they have in themselves. I just don't think it's probably there. Anyway, continue to do your good work, my friend, and we'll have a happy New Year. Talk to you soon.
Well, I appreciate you, and I obviously don't have a list ready to rock and roll or anything, but I think you brought up probably, I'll say my favorite on your list that is the most impactful when I heard it or whatever was the joy. It really does. It feels worse than it should, in my opinion. That there is this feeling, and maybe it's just because I'm, like I've said before, deep down, I'm a negative Packer fan, negative kind of guy, but there's just sort of this weird feeling of like it's bigger than just the year is over, it feels like I don't like something's really wrong. And it's weird because it shouldn't. There have been many, many years where our future has looked significantly worse. I mean, what do we got going on? We got, Jordan and Micah and all these things in the future. Like it's really a pretty good situation. I don't know if it's, watching the Bears and they're looking pretty promising. That's kind of like got me down in the dumps. I mean, the Vikings are terrible and have nothing going on. The Lions are falling apart. The Bears situation, I mean, their defense is appalling. And their quarterback he looked good, and he's looked good probably more consistently than in the past, but he's still maybe 50-50 in terms of, games where he looks good, games that he doesn't. But even if the Bears end up being a good team, we usually have a team to compete with. We usually have another team that's quite good. It's not usually the Bears since 2018, but I mean, this Lions team recently has been dominant. The Vikings over the years have been pretty scary. I don't know if it's maybe just because, we're on this losing streak and it's hard to watch the Packers lose this many games and play this poorly and whatnot. I don't know. But I need to frickin' knock it off. That'll be a theme for tomorrow's podcast. At least that's my plan, assuming I can get there in time. It's already getting kind of late, but oh well, stay up late then, loser. The heck was I going to say? Oh yeah, I mean, we're going to have a lot of time to talk about the offseason and the offseason. And I have a habit of wanting to like look at things and let's do a mock draft and let's do all these different things. And, again, maybe we will, but we shouldn't. We shouldn't. We still have time. We still have a season. And we should stay in the moment because, again, we're going to have a lot of time to sit here and, scrounge over the scraps of off-season content and all that nonsense that goes along with it. It's not. I mean, it's fun, but it is a well, there's no reason to borrow some of that time at all. So yeah, it's been hard to watch, and maybe part of it is just because of how promising everything was, how promising everything started. But I don't know. There's this weird thing happening among Packer fans that's starting to seep into my mind and maybe some other Packer fans' minds where it feels bigger than this year. Maybe it's just the finality of this year and it feels that way. I don't know. But this is a very good football team with a lot going on in a very positive direction. I mean, when you look at just the potential that we have with the team when healthy, and obviously they're never going to be perfectly healthy, but you also have to assume you're not going to lose every single one of your top players. And I mean every single one. I mean, who's the best player that hasn't missed, we'll call it 2 to 3 games or something to that effect? Who is the best player we have? Is it Romeo Dobbs? I'm trying to think who's better than McKinney, Xavier McKinney, and then Romeo, and I think that's it. It's it's down from there. Whoever you feel like picking. Again, Josh Jacobs, but the run game is useless. I'm not blaming Josh for that. He's a great running back, but he has no impact on this team this year, and he never will until we get this freaking off. I need to go a day without talking about the offensive line. Appreciate the call, Craig. Jersey Mike, what's up?
Hey, Ryan, it's Jersey Mike. So I'm listening to your all 41 points allowed episode, analyzing the defense, and you're talking about like what is missing here? Like we got the scheme, we got everything. Like the guys are obviously upset, they care. What's missing? And I've been telling you
Sorry.
for
didn't pay attention.
years. It feels like what this team is missing. And this team has always been missing the guy who throws the steam out the window and says, go out there and play freaking football, okay? We might all be upset or had been upset with Mike McCarthy and the way that he ran the organization at the end there. But he did have an expectation of guys, like, go out there and show the frick up. Stop being, here's the word, pussies. Stop being freaking pussies, all right?
Sometimes you guys can say the words that I feel like I can't say, so... Again, don't really usually bleep Packernet After Dark for those that are new here. And also sometimes it's cathartic to hear you guys say the stuff that I'm not allowed to say.
He's going to come out here and they're going to punch you in the face, all right? And they're going to say, screw your scheme, and it's going to be on you instead of worrying about where all the X's and O's go, right? And it's going to be on the X's and O's to actually dictate if the game is going to be won or not. All right? Let me give you a good example. Everybody is going to be very upset about Rashawn Gary and how horribly he played versus the Ravens. Yet, I know exactly what they told Rashawn to do when he went out there. It was run contain. And the only time that Rashawn actually went out there to pass rush was on 3rd and long.
That is a big problem. And we've been doing that all year, even when Micah was here, because that's the threat is running. We need to get you in that 3rd and long so we can unleash Micah. So there has been a lot of reining in the pass rush, and the players are just getting crapped on for that. And now that Micah's gone, it's even more so. Now we just, it's the same plan. You have to contain on 1st and 2nd, and the 3rd down is whatever, but we don't usually even get to that point. And again, when Rashawn gets the opportunities, the statistics are always pretty great, but he's on a reduced snap count for whatever reason. And then the amount of snaps that actually are times when he's trying to rush the passer, like legitimately, as opposed to like 1st down. 1st down passes happen, but it's not the same as 3rd and long because it's not a pin your ears back. It's a contain and then a late reaction pass rush, and those are so much harder, whatever. But yeah, I'm with you on that. I think the players, and I pointed this out too, you can kind of see when Hafley made that change because Wyatt's numbers went down, like everybody's numbers and everything just plummeted compared to what they were at the start of the season.
And the one time we got them to 3rd and long, what did we have? DBs who were playing off the receivers, who were allowing them to do whatever. When Rashawn Gary and Lucas Van Ness and Kingsley Enagbare are going hunting, and honestly, if they would have if Huntley would have held the ball.
It's the other thing that's annoying, and it's why Mike is so good, and part of the reason why a lot of these guys didn't get pressures and whatnot. He's there so fast. If our guys could cover, there's so many times I see somebody right there, and then boom, ball's out, 1st down. Like, dude. If you could just not give up the immediate 10 yards needed. You know what I mean? I mean, I know it's not so easy as to just say press him up, but press him up a little bit. Push him off his route and stick with him because we're going to get there. But we just don't do that. I don't know why. I don't know what we're missing. We're missing something. I mean, obviously it's the corners not being good enough, but I don't know.
Half a second more, he would have been clobbered. Right? I forget exactly which down it was, but these are critical moments in the game, and we have DBs who are 10 yards off of the line of scrimmage. A team that wants to punch somebody in the throat, wants to punch somebody in the mouth, says, screw the X's and O's, and I'm going to go out there and actually commit to my guys, right? And you're going to tell them, go man up on your guy, go press him, and make sure he can't get off the ball. You get beat deep, you get beat deep. It happens. If it happens, it happens. We're going to go out there and we're going to give you a shot to win this game. And that is not how this team is played. Maybe Matt LaFleur pulled up some good things on offense, and you're right, he finally said, Malik, go out there and wing it, right? The only reason we had any offense, you're right, is because of Malik Willis and the way he was running all over the place and able to get the ball out on really, awkward body position throws, right? And that is where Malik Willis shines. When all else hits the fan, Malik Willis can make some magic happen, and he's got a decent enough arm too. But let's be real, if Malik is forced to work from the pocket, I don't think he's anywhere near as good of a quarterback as Jordan Love is. So, yeah, but the problem is we don't have an offense.
I mean, I don't want to get into the battles here, but he was perfect in every phase of the game, passing to the right, to the left, in the pocket, out of the pocket, under pressure, no pressure. I mean, he literally had a perfect game.
Line, right? We don't have guys protecting Jordan Love that we can expect to actually show up. We don't have a defensive.
Part 2 for Jersey Mike.
I have no idea where I got cut off because I was in the middle of a rant. But basically, the whole fact of the matter is this uninspiring effort is due to Matt LaFleur. And you want to know the difference? Look at the energy that Jack Campbell, what's his name? Detroit Lions coach. look at
I honestly was going to bring this up as a counterpoint because they played the most uninspired football this last week against the Vikings? When they lost to the Vikings, who had like 5 net passing yards, it was the most uninspired, pathetic performance I've ever seen.
the energy he brings to the locker room versus the energy that Matt LaFleur brings. This is like having a nerd be your head coach. And that's what the problem is, right? He's really smart and he knows all the answers, but he has not got the bravado to get these guys going. And do you know why this team played really good football last year? I'll tell you why. There was a guy by the name of Anthony Campanile that was in the building who had a mouth on him. Okay? A good old Jersey boy who had a mouth on him, who was talking all the ish. Our linebackers look great. Our defense looked great. And now we don't have that voice, right? So the cutesy stuff on offense, when it doesn't work, Matt LaFleur can go back to the drawing board. But you can't do that on defense. Honestly, you can't. It requires guys that just have big, massive brass balls or steel balls or whatever it is that honestly don't care when things aren't going right. The only thing they want to do is kill people. That needs to be the motivation on the guys on defense. Going out there and killing people. Okay? We just watched Austin Booker do it again. All right? What is he going out there? He's just going out there and killing people. He's making big-time mistakes and big-time plays all at the same time. And that's what defense is. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. We have to start playing, I don't care, I want to kill you. So if that means that we have a few more penalties on defense, or that means that guys aren't necessarily, in the right spots and we give up a big play or two, right? But that means we're coming up with turnovers and guys are actually getting to the quarterback and people are fumbling the football like we were doing, right? We're just not going to get anywhere because these guys, they don't have all the intangibles to just be that quality shutdown defense. That what was it, the Denver defense, and it was like 09 or something like that, where they just had a guy at every single position on the field and you could not do anything, right? We don't have that right now. We don't have any of that. We had Parsons, McKinney's all right, but who else do we have? Gary's falling off a cliff. We expected more from Van Ness. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm kind of in the dumps. But I do think that we have the ability to pull this out, but I just don't have any expectation it'll happen. Go, Pat, go.
I feel like there's something there, but I can't go all the way there. I mean, there's just too many. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, I don't know that the rah-rah speeches are going to get it done. It might get you fired up in the beginning, but I think if you look at the Dan Campbell thing, when did it work? It worked when they were good, right? It's easy to be fired up. I mean, you could be fired up if you have a nerd coach, no problem, and be flying around the ball if you're just better than everybody. But I think the problem is a lot of times these guys get fired up and then they get hit in the mouth by a team that's better than them. And then what do? How long is that rah-rah speech from an hour ago going to sustain you as you've been getting pushed all over the field? Because at some point, they're just better than you. They're stronger than you. What do? There has to be some kind of a mental toughness that takes over, because I feel like being hyper emotional can swing in the other direction as well. I don't know. It's like you want a guy. And then too, it comes down to, the who's responsible for this. The Packers always talk about it in a way and as though it's the player's responsibility. And I have a hard time not agreeing with that. Because, you mentioned Campanile and he was great and Jacksonville's doing great. But wouldn't that kind of then fall on our defensive coordinator? Why isn't he being the rah-rah guy? It's his defense that sucks. Our offense looks great. I mean, I shouldn't say the entire offense, but I mean, the production is there. The offensive line is still pathetic. But, again, I mean, does Jordan need a rah-rah speech? No, he just plays well. Did Malik need, his head coach to give him some kind of a pep talk, or did Christian suddenly explode because of, some guy started swearing a lot or something? I don't know. I'm so torn on this, and I don't know that there really is an answer, because this goes back to what I was talking about before, where you get the the coaches that are like the team friendly or the player friendly guys. And then, when that doesn't work, then you go out and get the tough guys that they throw out all the ping pong tables. And now it's all about work and all that kind of stuff. And it just goes back and forth because no matter what, you can make it work if you can make it work. I don't know that there ever is one perfect answer. Maybe that is the answer that we need right now for us in particular. I don't know. But, one of the things I also always say is that everything works when everything's working. It's easy to be, the locker room is always going to be great when you're winning. And it looks like your coaching sucks and your player and your morale sucks and everything sucks when you're losing. Well, we're losing now. But I don't know if we're maybe putting the cart before the horse, saying it's the motivation causing it, when I think maybe it's the motivation following it. And the reason that we're losing isn't the motivation. The reason for the motivation is because we're losing, and we're losing because our players are just not as good. We're losing because the defensive lines we're seeing are better than our offensive lines, and we're losing because their receivers are better than our corners. And, we're losing because their run defense is better than our run offense. The heck was that? And so, again, look at Detroit. Detroit is the perfect, the epitome of the rah-rah team. And they did the rah-rah at first, and they were still bad, and it didn't really do anything. And then they got better, and they got better because of the players and because of the scheme with guys like Ben Johnson. And then I think when you add the rah-rah into it, it gives you a little buff. It gives you a little bonus, But when you lose your offensive coordinator, the nerd guy, and you lose your offensive line, which is the foundation of your offense, that, because you're a run-first team, and so when you lose your offensive line, you lose your ability to be so dominant as a runner. You also have a quarterback that can't operate under pressure, and so now he can't throw as well, and so things start to spiral. And then suddenly, where's all the rah-rah? Where is it? It's not there. Why? Did Dan Campbell lose his balls? No, he's the same guy screaming the same crap. They're just not a good football team anymore, or at least not as good. Hopefully, they're still good enough to beat the Bears. Yes, I'll be rooting for them. Screw the Bears. I don't care. But, I don't think right now I would switch. And I don't know that Dan Campbell made the Lions what they are. I think the Lions made sense being as good as they were when you look at their team. It just made sense. You take that team and Ben Johnson, and that's the entire equation. And you can take the head coach and just throw him in the frickin' garbage. He served no purpose. And I think we're seeing that because the players and Ben Johnson are gone. And what happened to the Bears, right? They fixed their offensive line, and they got Ben Johnson, and their offense is now better than the Lions' offense. I know there's more to it, and I know there's something to what you're saying, and I don't know how to get there. I don't know exactly what to do. I know that we need that. But I also think even if we had it, I don't know that it fixes anything right now, because I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we brought in Jonathan Ford to help us with our run defense. Jonathan Ford, I think we drafted him in the 7th round, and we never played him because he was bad. He's another guy that's just massive, 330 or whatever. He didn't hardly ever play. He did play, but very rarely. And then we shipped him off because he wasn't good. But we're in such dire straits right now, we're bringing back Jonathan Ford to help us with our appalling run defense. I don't think we're lacking motivation. Well, we are lacking motivation. I just don't think we're lacking leadership as much as we're lacking talent. Because if you have talent, then you're going to have production. And if you have production, you're going to have wins. And if you have wins, you're going to have motivation. And it's going to be internal. Right now, what we need are guys that can self-motivate. Right now, we need guys that can battle through this and put their head down and say, I don't know what you're talking about, and just grind. I need less highly emotional people and more sociopaths that don't have emotion at all. They don't care about winning and losing. They just care about their job. They're a freaking Terminator. They're a robot. They just go execute because it's their mission. Now, emotional people are great when you've got momentum on your side, when you got things like that. Things start to build in your direction, and when you're a good team, they can really ramp up. But when things start to go bad, they start to get volatile. They start to get pouty. They start to get down and out. And those guys right now are plummeting in this team. And the only guys that are surviving it are the Terminators, because the emotional side of this is not bothering them. So I don't know, maybe you need a healthy mix of both. You need the psychos that'll come in there when things are great and when the momentum swings and everything, you put them in there and they start going crazy. The crowd starts roaring, they get all fired up, they get a little bit extra energy. It's kind of like your introverts and your extroverts, right? An extrovert is somebody defined as gaining energy when they're out in public, and an introvert loses energy, drains their energy. The extroverts are the crazy ones you put on the field when things are good and things are crazy and things are wild. Your introverts are guys that just go out there and they do their freaking job. I don't know. All right, let's take a very late break. We'll be right back.
Good morning, Ryan. Mike Hebring, a.k.a. Packers Superfan.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Ryan. Just wanted to check in with you this morning. I wanted to, I guess more than anything, just wanted to say thank you for the doing the live stream the other night.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Just a reminder, for those that didn't know, I did a live stream on Patreon. I'd like to try to do a little bit more stuff on there. We will be doing more live streams, and Cullen will be hopefully joining me. He's out of town, actually in Indiana, Craig. But they'll be coming back tomorrow, I believe. So they'll be back for the next at least 2 Packers games, hopefully more. So we'll be doing live streams, him and I. We'll be doing that on Patreon. And again, you can join on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. I think there's even an option to just pay to get in. I don't know. I don't know how any of that stuff works. But I saw it was an option, and I thought that would be kind of cool because I just, as I've said before, I don't do enough for people that support me on Patreon. So I thought this would be a fun way to kind of give back. So if you're on Patreon, please join us. If you want to join, please join Patreon. It's basically free. But, you know, as I've said before a bunch of times, if everybody that listened to this donated $1, I'd be set. So please consider that.
You know, other than obviously the game.
Yeah.
But, yeah, one thing I learned for sure is that you and I are very similar in game.
I get a little heated.
For sure. Everything, there's nothing going right during the game. So that was fun to see. You know, just kind of those raw emotions you're watching the game. And then, you know, after the game, you settle down a little bit. Yeah. You know, you kind of get back to reality.
I told you guys that's what I do. I'm a freaking raging psychopath. I don't allow myself to go on social media because I say things that I regret and everything else. You know, this team's terrible, and then we go on to win the game, and then everyone's trashing me for the whole time. I wasn't kidding. A
little bit, but I think the last time I called, I talked a little bit about expectations. And, you know, the fact that, you know, I predicted they'd win 9 games coming into the season. So obviously my expectations weren't very high for this team. And it was always because of the Matt LaFleur effect. And I always said that, you know, this team would go as far as Jordan Love would go. And obviously Jordan's played very well. And, you know, outside of the you know, being hurt here just recently. But, you know, it was always going to be the Matt LaFleur effect. And just his, you know, he's a great play caller, great offensive coordinator. It was just the rest of those head coaching duties. You know, where are we going to see some improvement? You know, that's the only way they're going to get past 9 wins. And I just don't think we saw it again this year from Matt. You know, same old Matt. You know, he's a fantastic play caller, great guy to have running your offense. I just don't think he has a lot of leadership. I don't think he's the kind of coach that guys are running through walls for. So again, you know, expectations, you know, are something I think we always have to try to manage with these teams, with these Packer teams. One thing that I tweeted about the other night, though, and I will tell you that, you know, even today as I think more about it, that's really starting to piss me off, is the fact that we cannot defend the home field advantage anymore at Lambeau. Mm-hmm. It is just absolutely incompetent at this point. You know, I think I saw a stat online. Somebody posted on X the other day that, you know, Matt has lost more games in the last 15 months at home in Lambeau than Mike Holmgren lost in in 7 years in Lambeau. Wow. I think the stat is in 7 years, Holmgren and his crew only lost 6 games in Lambeau. In 7 years. 6. And we've lost,
Part 2.
And we've lost more home field games at Lambeau in the last 15 months than Mike Holmgren and his crew did in his entire 7 years with the Packers. So, Ryan, I'm a little older than you. I grew up in the 70s, and I grew up during the 70s watching the Packers, especially the back half of the 70s. I lived through the 80s with the Packers. And then when Holmgren finally came in with Wolf and, Harlan, and they got the teams, they got Favre and they got Reggie White, 92 it started, and they did such a fantastic job of making it so hard to win in Lambeau for the visiting team. And, I lived through the 80s, and, just everybody just waltzed in there and just trounced the Packers, and to see that go full to fruition and to now see it go back is the most gut-wrenching, disappointing thing, I think, of this whole scenario. And it, it started a long time ago. Obviously, it started in 2002, especially during the playoffs. The Packers were 13-0 at home during the playoffs prior to the 2002 playoff game against Atlanta, and ever since now they've been 7-7 in the playoffs at home. I mean, what has happened to our home field advantage? So I just love to get your perspective on that, maybe a little historical perspective. I mean, hell, we lost all 3 North Division games last year in Lambeau, all 3 of them. And this year, 5-3? Again, we lost 3 games at Lambeau this year, and to get embarrassed like that versus the Ravens at home, I mean, it's just unacceptable. And I don't know what we got to do to change it. I don't have the answers, but I'd love to hear your historical perspective on it, and what your thoughts are, and what maybe they can do moving forward to try to get this home field advantage back. Anyway, appreciate it. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah, I didn't know any of that. That'd be something interesting to look into for sure. And kind of to Jersey Mike's point, this is maybe where that emotion thing comes in. Imagining Matt LaFleur saying, "Not in our house," like, okay, Matt. I don't see him giving that speech, maybe that is kind of the thing as far as, that the DNA of that type of a team. I think maybe the point is there's pros and cons to every kind of leadership, every kind of coach, every kind of whatever. You can get the CEO coach, the leadership coach, the offensive mind, the defensive mind, the culture builder, whatever, however you can break them down. They all can work, and they all have worked, and they've also all failed. But I think maybe they have all distinctive qualities to them when they work and when they don't, and how they work and how they don't. And I think, the Dan Campbells of the world probably, and I don't know what their record is at home, but probably would be the type of team that would be tough to play at home kind of thing, because there is that sort of edge to them. That little bit of extra oomph of this is our house. And again, I just worry, not that I should. I mean, you can't be the best if you're not the best, and being just okay or good enough or whatever isn't good enough. I get that. I just really worry about, I'm excited about what we could gain by moving in a new direction. I'm worried about what we would lose. And would we gain enough to overcome what we're about to lose? But I do understand it. I do get it. I don't ever have faith in this team to kind of be the team that can rise up and overcome. And maybe that has a lot to do with our postseason success or lack thereof, because that's when you need that kind of leadership, whether it's maybe the Dan Campbell or even just the CEO type of, the no nonsense, this is how we operate, as opposed to just expecting guys who are beaten and battered and bruised and bloodied to deal with their own emotions and then come into the laboratory and be like, okay, here's the plays we're going to run. And I don't know that I'm not going to pretend to know what Matt LaFleur does and how motivated he gets guys or any of that kind of stuff. I don't know. None of us know. Like I said before, all we can do is guess, but we all are kind of coming to the same conclusions with the same guesses because we all look at Matt LaFleur as grown men and say, he doesn't inspire me. Like, I can't imagine him saying any. I mean, I'll be honest. I kind of feel embarrassed when he does his locker room hype speeches. I don't know if I'm the only one, but it's kind of cringy. I feel like he's acting and the guys are kind of playing along more so than actually being fired up, aside from, again, Rashawn, because he's just always jacked up all the time. But I guess we'll see what happens. I don't know what else to say other than that. It'll start this week. Do they dare? Does Matt LaFleur dare benching his starters? I think he needs to, but I have to wonder, as a human being who cares about self-preservation, if he's going to use the old excuse of, we don't want to surrender or whatever. We want to fight. Kind of the same bull crap with that stupid Bears game where we played and got everybody hurt. If he's going to play that line because he wants to win, because he's worried about his job a little bit. Because if you go on a 4-game losing skid and then your 5th game is a loss in the playoffs, that ain't going to look good to your brand new boss. Your new boss's first year in, and this is what you do, a 9-win season on a 5-game skid, 0-1 in the playoffs this year. It's not super inspiring, and as Packers superfan, Mike has pointed out several times, if it wasn't for that addition of the 7th seed, we would have just missed the playoffs. I want to look at that and see what our record would have been. But I talk about as a point of pride that we go to the playoffs every year. We would have missed the playoffs many times. I will do that for tomorrow's podcast if I do one. Look at what our record would have been as far as when we go to the playoffs and when we don't, because that may very much change my opinion of Matt LaFleur. In other words, the only reason we go to the playoffs every year, quote unquote, is because of a technicality. If they didn't change this, we would almost never go to the playoffs, and it's evident by the fact that we get in and it feels like, we didn't belong in here, which is how it's felt since forever. I can't remember the last time I felt like we were a super dominant. I mean, again, in 2020 I did, until we ran into, Tampa in 2020? And then suddenly it felt like, oh, wait, no, I guess we don't belong here. What the heck is happening? This is terrible. Man, time is flying. All right, let's take our final break, and we'll be right back.
Processing everything, just doing the due diligence on thinking or saying. Here's the Malik Willis situation in a nutshell. It seems that Willis is playing at a high level because he is. The reason why, okay, he is more athletic than Jordan Love. Yes. But the reason why it's just a good fit for this current moment is because this offensive line is playing horribly, and he is bailing out the offensive line. We all know the advanced metrics. When Jordan Love is given time, he's a top 3 quarterback, right? And this is just the worst line we've had. Yes, we've had some good performances. We've had a lot of bad.
And again, I just want to jump in. I'm not, and I don't think ever have said that Jordan's playing poorly. I'm just trying to give Malik his flowers on how incredibly good of a job he did and has done as a quarterback.
Performances on an individual basis. Yes, sacks are low. A lot of it is sack avoidance by Love, getting the ball out, whatever, right? But I can understand why people are all excited on Malik Willis because of what he can do within this style offense. My worry is he's going to end up somewhere that's within that Shanahan system. Like, he could be the Rams' future quarterback. He could be the Vikings quarterback, right? Who knows what the hell's going to happen. Let's say Stafford wins the Super Bowl, retire, and he ends up in L.A. That's a possibility, too. But
Please don't go to the Vikings.
It's just the way this scheme is. He fits the scheme because he also has a running threat within the scheme, so he's getting teams open in our offense, and he has that running threat, so they have to commit a guy to watch him at the same time. So that's why this all seems like really good. It's just normally a typical Packers offensive line, this isn't an issue. But just now we're starting to we're seeing like a great performance because yes, he played a bad pass rush that's slow and unathletic because that's what we know the Ravens pass rush is. They don't have any, but they name somebody. They're all gone or injured or not amazing players on their pass rush. That's why it seemed like he did so well. He hit every pass because their pass defense is not good.
Bro, don't do this. This is what I don't want to do. See, we get so sensitive about Jordan, we got to downplay Malik. He was under pressure 50% of the time, and he opened up the game with 2 50-yard dots. Every pass he threw was a dot. Bad coverage doesn't make you throw accurately. He threw 100% of his passes accurately, and many of them were on the run, and many of them were deep passes. There is no explaining away how elite that performance was. There's none.
Yes, they have names, but they are just not a good pass defense. So a lot of stuff is going to be overblown. Take the Bears game. They just see what Brock Purdy did. Yes, I'm all for having Malik Willis on our roster, but that ends the season because we've seen the highest levels of football performed by Jordan Love. And yes, it's kind of been it's always wonky, but I think that's more of a Matt LaFleur.
Part 2.
Just picking up where I left off, this is what? So year 7, year 6 of Matt LaFleur. And I don't know if we can continue doing this, man. It's just I don't know. And you look at Dan Campbell as like a perfect example of it could happen to anybody, where just the team collapses, has no life. Because look at Dan Campbell, their whole mentality was fighting kneecaps, and now they're out the playoffs, and They just got beat by the Vikings. And yeah, Vikings have a good defense, and they're winning with Max Grosner and J.J. McCarthy, who are not NFL quarterbacks. But I don't know. On offense, this guy can scheme up stuff, but there's some sort of head coach deal that's not being met, where the team just doesn't show up. And yes, I don't think they're going to move on. I don't think he's getting an extension based on everything that happens, but next year's going to be interesting because it's a hot seat year, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. That's simplest solution's the best. It's like, this is your shot, policy is going to be like, hey, we're going to need a new voice in the room after this season. If we're not going to be the level of success we haven't won a division in a while, and that's not supposed to be our conversation. That's supposed to be just kind of what happens in Green Bay. We win the division. So, not going to take anything for granted. Not going to get too high, not going to get too low. We just need to set a different level of expectation, because just doing what we're doing is not enough. We still have all the pieces to make a run this year, and it's just the time's ticking. All right. By the end of the 2026 season, we need some sort of fundamental shift in accountability of the players, and we can't have any of these just don't show up games from here on all the way through the end of next season, or it's just he's not going to be our coach. Simple as that. Because at this point, it's a coaching thing. So, Malik Willis, hopefully you get a $50 million contract. Hopefully it's not for the Rams, but we'll find out. If Stafford wins the Super Bowl, it's going to suck. Go Pack Go.
Yeah. I mean, look, if let me just ask this question. If Tucker and Micah were healthy, would we even be having this conversation? We would not. We would not have lost the last 2 games. We would have had a significantly better record. And nobody would be talking about firing the head coach. Which, again, I bring that up because I think at the end of the day, it comes down to players, and we don't have the players right now. And I know it's well, suck it up. I get that. But who fixes it? Because, again, you go back to Dan Campbell. He can't fix it. How do I know? Because he endured loss, and now his team is falling apart. So who fixes this, and how? Do we really think that there are guys that can motivate players enough? Maybe. I mean, motivate them more? Yeah. And again, maybe that's the conversation. It's less about 2025 and more about, if we bring Tucker and every single time I forget his name. I don't know why I can't remember his name. Micah Parsons. If we get them next year into the postseason, can Matt LaFleur deliver once we get there? Maybe that's more the question, but I feel like at this point, I don't know that this is a conversation about, Matt isn't getting them motivated. I think there would be a massive lack of motivation. Kind of regardless right now. Similar again to what you're seeing across the league with a lot of teams that are struggling with injuries and just quality of play. And so that's where, again, like if you've got the answer, it's what you got to do is point me to who. Who do you admire? Keeping in mind that I'm going to immediately disregard any team that's loaded with talent. The Rams are great and they're motivated until they get decimated, and then they're not good and they're not motivated and nobody cares about them anymore. The Eagles are the greatest team in the world that everybody wanted to emulate until they start playing poorly, and then it's the most devastating locker room, and the coaches hate the quarterback, and the quarterback hates the coach, and the wide receiver hates the quarterback, and it's just a disaster. Except when they're winning. Then they all love each other, and they go on to win the Super Bowl. I mean, the Bears are not lacking for motivation because they've gone from a terrible team to a team that's winning, and they keep winning. If they weren't getting so damn lucky at the end of all these games, they'd have a losing record, and motivation would probably be in the dumps, which would cause a downward spiral. I think the Packers are stuck in a downward spiral where the injuries have caused losses. The losses have caused a lack of motivation. The lack of motivation is causing bad play, and it just continues down and down and down the spiral. Can a coach pull you out of that spiral? Probably, maybe, sometimes, but I don't know. Again, Dan Campbell apparently can't do it. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
Ryan, Beer Chief Benny.
Yo.
I love Javon Bullard.
Well, that's good.
I love what he said in his interview after. I don't know if you're going to play it on the podcast, but basically he was just like, if I'm being totally honest, it's bullshit. He's like, we got to get better and we got to do it quick. Otherwise we ain't getting past the wild card. You
don't have to do the black person voice if you don't want to, but that's fine.
Guys in the locker room like that I love. And Lucas Van Ness said, that it was embarrassing. Or whatever, it shouldn't happen. And you got our head coach that just goes, well, I got to look at it. We got to see it. It wasn't up to our standard. I got to be better. And, looks like he's going to cry up there. The other guys are just pissed off. They're like, this is bullshit. This is bad. LaFleur is just like, yeah, just got to be better. It's just total bullcrap.
Yeah.
Just total coach speak. And, the players take on the energy and attitude of the coach. And I just don't think LaFleur has that energy and attitude to get us out of funks like this.
No.
Clearly. But now, here's the thing, dude. Momentum is real. if we lose week 18, pack it up, man. And if we look terrible, pack it up. I don't care about the whole... You cannot sit your starters. I do not care. You have to play them, man, for at least a half. Because...
I'm very much on record, very much disagreeing. I don't... Motivation is nice and momentum is nice, but when you get your quarterback hurt like you did last year, which was the dumbest thing in the world, we played our starters kind of. They weren't motivated because we were already clinched. We started losing to the Bears, who sucked, and then Jordan got hurt, and then we pulled our starters, and then we really lost. It was the absolute worst of all worlds. And the Vikings are playing pretty good football. They've been winning a lot, and their defense looks scary. If Jordan gets hurt, that's fireable. If you put Jordan out there in a game that means nothing and your quarterback gets hurt, I would fire you on the spot. Or Christian or anybody else for that matter. It's unacceptable.
Momentum is real. If you get the starters and they get out to a lead, like they look pretty good, whatnot, that's amazing. But we cannot go into the playoffs having our starters, who are already struggling, by the way, go into the playoffs with cold feet and into a high-pressure situation in Chicago, most likely.
Just let them get healthy.
I pray not. Although, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it. It's like, at the one hand, I want the Bears, man, because their defense is terrible. On the other hand, that will be the worst day of my life if they freaking lose. It won't actually be the worst day of my life. But if we lose to the Bears, that would be terrible in the playoffs. I don't want to deal with that. But, I mean, hey, Wisconsin does have a history of beating Chicago teams in the playoffs. It's pretty awesome. Happened this last year with the Brewers, eliminating the Cubs in the divisional round. It was epic. But, yeah, have to carry momentum into the postseason. Go, Pack, go! Fuck all these other teams.
Yeah, I'll say it again. I'm all the way out on that plan. Our guys need time. I mean, you know you basically know who your opponent is going to be, right? So take the week, spend that entire time game planning for your opponent, get your starters who are banged up healthy, practicing, and try to win against the Vikings. Clearly, and if we're talking Malik, I know some people are talking about sitting Malik. I don't really understand that. I don't see why we couldn't still win the game. I mean, who are we actually benching that makes it impossible for us to win against the Vikings? I mean, tough for sure, but our odds don't even go down that much. And I don't know. I don't see any reason in a meaningless game. You need to go all in the postseason. All in. And going all in doesn't mean some superstitious thing about, motivation or whatever. Like, beating the Vikings is going to be some kind of a big springboard or something. No, just they need to sit. They need to sit. They need to be healthy. They need to be rested. And that's the end of it. So we'll see. We'll see what they end up doing, but that's very obviously where I stand on that. We'll take a break. Or no, we're leaving now. We're done now. You guys have a good night. Bye-bye.